Hi, Jan here with part 3 of my Pagan Memoir, just a journey through my life as a pagan, which has not been so much go with the flow as follow the flood. It's been an amazing adventure through the years, so I hope that you enjoy hearing about some of the things I've been getting up to. I don't think I've angled the camera very well. That's a bit better. Oh no, it isn't. Oh well, just do it with my head missing, see how we go. And yeah, welcome back if you've been to my channel before. If you're new, then welcome, and I hope you enjoy it, and please like and subscribe if you like what you see. So anyway, my pagan journey, this is part 3. So the story so far is I'm out and proud, I'm living my best pagan life, I'm working with a small group of local witches where we're going off and doing rituals together. I'm out on the wider pagan community, and there's lots and lots of pagan events going on, and I was going to conferences and talks and lectures and open rituals and all kinds of wonderful things. And I'd also met someone who, not a pagan, he was very involved in interfaith, so through him I was getting out to other events with people of all different religions, and I've always been fascinated by people's belief systems. Excuse me, I need to just tiny adjustment there. It's so hard for me to get the actual angle right with from here, but I'm still learning. Yeah, so I was going out to all these other events, very often getting invited along as the pagan or as the witch. But one time, through him, I was invited to go into Stonehenge. Now Stonehenge, there are 3 ways of going in. At solstices, sometimes English Heritage, who are the guardians of Stonehenge, will open it up to open access and everybody's allowed to go in, but I've never wanted to do that. I can't feel spiritual in a huge sort of raging mass of people. That sounds horrible. You know, the people that go in aren't violent or anything, but it's just too many of them, and there's too much going on and too much noise, and it's just not my thing. And although it's supposed to be free, the only way to get there is by car, so you have to park in their car park, and that costs a lot of money. So that's not my choice to do. I've never gone in at that time. But the other 2 ways of going in is the way that most people would go in, where you go during open hours, you pay a fee, and you're allowed to go and walk around the outskirts of the stones. Not actually inside the circle, but you're allowed to go around the outskirts of the stones. There's an exhibition, so you can go in and learn everything that they know about Stonehenge. And the 3rd way of going in is a private access, where somebody will book it for when it's closed to the public, and there is a fee involved in that, but then they will go in either on their own or with a group of people. They will go in and have a completely private entry into the stones. And I am then invited in to go into one of these, a private ritual. It was, that particular time, it was run by the Archdruid of Stonehenge, and so I go along there. I've done all kinds of different pagan ritual at this time, but nothing specifically druidic. You know, I was friends with quite a lot of druids, but nothing actually specifically druidic. So I go into Stonehenge on this particular day. I can't even remember if I was wearing robes or not, and if I was, they certainly weren't druidic robes. They were just whatever I had. And it felt very, very much like the first day at big school, where you know how to read and write, and you kind of know stuff, but you're well aware that everybody, all the bigger kids, know a lot more than you do. And it had that feeling about it. So I went and had a conversation with the Archdruid before everything started and said, I've never done specifically Druidic ritual before. Do you want to kind of point me in the right direction? And he was absolutely lovely, and he said, you know, there's nothing you can do wrong, you know, just kind of, well, go with the flow or whatever. And so I had this wonderful experience inside Stonehenge, but what I came away with was the knowledge that you can book for private access. And me being me thought, oh, that's a good idea. Oh, I've just realised that I haven't set my timer properly. And I've no idea now if the timer's going to be okay, because I don't know how long I've been talking already. So if the video suddenly cuts off at the end, it's because I haven't had warning, so I haven't said goodbye, but there will be a part 4. I'm really not very good at doing all this. As the title of my channel alludes to, the broken brain is I live with very severe brain damage, so it takes me longer to learn things, and I haven't yet learned editing or all the things that professional YouTubers can do. You know, it's as much as I can do to turn the camera on, film something and get it up there. So if you see it, as far as I'm concerned, that's a win for me. But anyway, I've learned that I can book for private access. And then shortly after going into Stonehenge with the Druids, I'm invited to a multi-faith conference, to actually speak at a multi-faith conference. It was a big conference up in London where people of all different belief systems and religions were all coming together, and it was a 2-day event. It was quite a big thing. I can't remember exactly where it was in London, but it was quite a big thing in it. And there were lots and lots of really, really interesting speakers there. And as I say, I was asked to do a talk. And it was one of these kind of conferences where there are 2 talks going on at the same time, so you've got to choose which one to go to. And the person who was talking at the same time as I really wanted to go to that. And I was quite upset that I was going to miss that one, because that was on my list of things that I wanted to go and listen to. And I kind of assumed that everybody else would be in that one. And I thought really what I'd do is I'd have, you know, just a few people, you know, there'd be 3 or 4 people in there, load of empty chairs. I could whip through it really, really quickly. Any questions? No, thank you. Let's all go to the other one. But when I actually got to my room, I'd been given the biggest room, which I wasn't expecting. And I go in, and not only were all the chairs filled, people stood down the back, down the sides. And when I actually went to the front to do my talk, I had people sat on the floor in front of me. It was that crowded. I actually had a Jewish rabbi sat at my feet while I delivered this talk. So, okay, all right, well, you want to hear it, so let's go. And I wish I'd have kept my notes, because it's so many years ago now, you know. I mean, I would have covered the very, very basics about casting circles and what is a circle, why do we cast it, you know, why do we wear robes? And I would say the simple answer to both of those, although there are much, much longer, more elongated answers for anybody who isn't pagan, the very short answer is it puts you in a completely different frame of mind to when you're wearing your ordinary clothes and doing ordinary things. You've created sacred space, and sacred space in your head for thought patterns. So that's in brief the very, very tip of the iceberg of why we do it. And I explained all about how we would call quarters and invite in God and Goddess or various other energies that we were working with. When we call the quarters, we call in the spirit of earth, air, fire and water. All these things. And it's very hard after all these years to think what I did talk about, you know, what I would have talked about at the time. But I know it was quite a lively talk, and I had a very, very good reception, a lovely, lovely audience. And I know that I did cover magic, and does magic work? And in short, yes, and we all do it. I'm a witch, I call it magic, and I do it in rituals. If you're a Christian, you would call it the power of prayer, and you would do it in a prayer position. A modern positive thinker would call it the power of positive thought. You know, New Agers would be putting things out to the universe and allowing the universe to bring it back. It's all the same, but we're all doing it in slightly different ways. But it's the same energy, it's tapping into the same thing. And, you know, within witchcraft, you know, it's a way of doing our magic, is a way of focusing our energy and focusing intent in order to bring about the outcome that we're looking for. And in amongst that, it's also important, you know, at the time, I suppose it still goes on, but there's an awful lot of lovely people who do healing, whether it's prayer circles for healing or, you know, New Age was very big at the time, and, you know, sort of sending healing thoughts and all this sort of thing, and I know it still goes on, and I'm not saying there is anything wrong with that at all. I think it's a very good thing to do. But I think if you believe in the power of healing, you've got to understand that there is also the power to harm, and it is so easy to throw that power out without even thinking about it. How many times have you been walking through a crowded place, a supermarket or a shopping mall at Christmas, and somebody's bumped into you, and your energy is just dark, and it's kind of thrown in that person's direction. And so what I'm saying is, if you believe in the power that your thoughts and you can call on whoever to heal, then that energy that you throw out in those moments is 10 times stronger. And be aware when you're in those sort of situations where somebody might do something that would set you off, to actually keep your personal energy calm, which will sound really weird to anybody who's watching me who's not a pagan, but if you're a pagan, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Just be aware and keep a lid on it, as it were. So, as I say, I'm giving this talk, I'm inviting questions, you know, as I say, quite a lively audience. And then somebody said, what do you actually get out of being pagan or a witch? Which wasn't a question that I was expecting, but I immediately came back. It gives me the right to be beautiful. No matter how old I am, no matter how fat I am, I have a right to be beautiful. And the room erupted. I got a standing ovation. I had people standing on chairs and clapping and cheering, and, you know, whatever faith they were, they clearly accepted that well. But I truly do believe that, you know, we are all of us, every one of us, we are part of the divine. And as part of that, we are beautiful. And, you know, embrace it. Embrace your inner beauty. You know, I get so upset when I see people these days who are so convinced that they're not beautiful, that they will do all manner of terrible things to their body surgically to try and make themselves more beautiful. And 9 times out of 10, there was nothing wrong in the first place. And, you know, within paganism, when we look at the goddess in 3 aspects, as the maid, mother and crone, and each part of those aspects and of our womanhood is a beautiful stage. And it doesn't mean because you're older you're uglier. It doesn't mean that at all. You know, when you come into your wisdom years, which is where I am, so I hope that I'm able to impart some wisdom, you know, that in itself has a beauty of its own. It's a different beauty, but it's still a beauty. So that was the conference, and it went very, very well, and I was very pleased with that. But then, getting back to normal life, I think I'm going to start looking into actually booking Stonehenge for private access. So I actually did book it for a morning ritual one time, just for the group of people that I was working with locally, just as the small private group of people, not the wider pagan community. And we went in for a sunrise ritual, and it was just amazing, you know, to have the entire stone circle to ourselves. I mean, there are certain rules within it. You can't light fires, you can't do this, you can't stand on the stones, all these sort of things. But within our ritual, we were private and allowed to do what we wanted to, basically. And after that one, I immediately booked for the autumn equinox for a much bigger group of people, because there was cost, I think at the time it was around about £250 to book it for a private access, which meant that nobody else could come in other than people in your group. And so I thought, well, if I have a big enough group, then we can all share the cost, you know, everybody will have to pay a certain amount to come along and we'll all go in together. And so I began to do that, and it became an annual thing that every year I would go in with a group of people of all different pagan pathways, and the ritual would be pagan, but it wouldn't be specifically witchcraft, it wouldn't be specifically druid, it would lend things from all different paths. And if there was something that somebody wanted particularly, like if there was a hand fasting or something, then we would incorporate that into the ritual. And now looking back, it's very, very hard to pinpoint which one was which, because I was doing it every year at the same time every year, so it was kind of similar, but there were differences, because always, if people were coming year on year, which they did, I didn't want it to become just exactly the same every year. I wanted to deliver for them something new, something exciting. And you know, one of the things that stands out in my memories is what I think of as the year of the headdresses, because as I say, you made mother crones, so I'd written the whole ritual around these three aspects of the goddess, and I got two other girls and myself enacting those parts. And I had learned back at the hand fasting that I did a year or so before then, that I had developed a talent for actually making headdresses. And so I made 3 headdresses, and the maid's headdress was all kind of spring colours. It was yellows and I think gypsophilia in there. So yellows and little white flowers, and it was really, really pretty. And my friend Sarah, who was enacting that part, I'd made a golden colour cloak, and she wore that. And then I was going to say the girl, but the lady who was playing the mother's role, I made her what to this day I think of as the best headdress I've ever made. It was roses, beautiful red roses and corn, ripe corn. And it was absolutely stunning, and I was almost jealous that I'd made it for her and couldn't wear it myself, because I loved it so much. And she had that and a red cloak, and then I played the crone, and so I made myself this headdress which actually looked really good, but it was awful to wear. It was crow's feathers, but it was dried leaves, and so it was crunchy and it stuck in. It was actually really uncomfortable and painful, but you suffer for these things when you want to do them. So we had that ritual. Another year there was a couple who had asked to be hand fasted, so we incorporated that into the ritual. And at the end of it, I had said, would anybody else like to renew their vows, sorry. And an older couple came forward, and they had been married since forever, but I don't know if they'd actually ever been hand fasted in a pagan ceremony, but they said at the time they couldn't pass up the opportunity to do that inside the stone circle. Now I'm lost here which ritual it was, whether the lady who played the gong that I had spoken about in my last video, I know that she brought her gong into one of the rituals. I don't know if it was one of mine or the one that I went to with the Archdruid. I can't remember which one it was, but I know that she had played gong in one of those two. But then when I got my own gong, I would take my own gong in and I would play my gong in there, which is a fantastic experience. When you've got this stone circle, which is as much gap as it is stone, you don't expect the acoustics to be so incredible. Another thing that I did the very first time we went in was I had been part of another ritual run by a druid. It wasn't the one in Stonehenge, it was something else entirely, where they'd done a cascading Arwen, where everybody is just chanting Arwen but coming in and out at random in all different kind of male voices, female voices, and it was just this cascade of sound. It was the most beautiful experience, and I wanted to recreate that in that first ritual that I did in there. But that first one in particular, when I looked through all the list of all the people who'd booked to come with me, there wasn't a single druid as such. You know, there were people of all other traditions, but there wasn't a specifically druid person. And it just seemed wrong to go into Stonehenge and do a cascading Arwen without a druid. So I thought, what am I going to do? Because I really want it in the ritual. And then the night before we went in, it suddenly occurred to me, okay, we won't do an Arwen, we'll do an Amen. And then I thought, how am I going to go into this group of 50 odd pagans and sell that I want you to chant Amen? But actually, when I looked it up, Amen actually meant hidden from view, or the definition that I read. And I thought, that is so perfect. And fortunately, everybody agreed, and so we had this amazing cascading Amen. It was the only year that we did that. But when I was running rituals, I used to love to use a lot of voice and sound. And in those days when I had a singing voice, you know, it was something that I could add, I felt, to the ritual. And so there would be chanting and song and all sorts of things. That's gone completely now. I don't know if you can hear, I'm a little bit croaky. That's because in the stroke, my left hand vocal cords are paralysed, and I'm a bit croaky in my speaking voice now, but I can't sing to save my life. I just heard somebody out there and they're clearly being very quiet so as not to interrupt me. But they have completely blown my train of thought now. So I'll call it an end to this video. There will be a part 4. Hope you've enjoyed this, but as I say, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Okay, may your gods go with you. Lots of love. Bye.